Without taking things for granted, I have come to the conclusion that Death Stranding is by far one of the most unique and most interactive storytelling experiences that we could have ever gotten in this generation of video games. In a world where games are mainly used as the way to let loose, to express your workday frustrations out of the animated goons and splattering blood, Death Stranding was a game that focused entirely on a dramatic, beautifully portrayed, gorgeously animated, incredibly well acted and overly stylized story. Yet it still didn't let us leave without being a unique gameplay experience. After Kojima's long-running Metal Gear Solid was stolen from him and turned into a game where you fucking poke sticks into zombies and die of the dehydration, his fresh start needed to be something new, something groundbreaking, something that the Metal Gear Solid series were back when they first came out. In an age where innovation has already run out of juice, Hideo Kojima came up with a new way of innovative, expansive interactivity of storytelling. He created a whole new gameplay loop with a newly designed gameplay mechanics, but he also added in a story that defines video games. Something so wacky, so unrealistic, and yet so emotionally resonant that it can grip us. It stuck with us. It was a unique experience that you wouldn't find anywhere other than a Kojima Productions game. This, for all the senses and purposes, is a game that should have never been made. Yet it was, and it's absolutely glorious. We all know that when Kojima wants to do something, when he really wants to do something, he always finds a way. Interactive storytelling in video games have been a concept that's been going around for a long while. However, it was never perfected until very recently. Now, more and more games that test interactivity, cinematic storytelling as the base of their gameplay are coming out. Whether it to be Heavy Rain or Detroit Become Human or even the game like The Last of Us, God of War 2018, Uncharted, and just about every other Sony exclusive you can think of. All of these games are aiming to be as cinematic as possible. However, none of them had the same effect on me as Death Stranding did, a game where you're constantly wondering what the hell is even happening. That's the case with most good films too. Cinema as an art form thrived upon the concept that us audience should consistently be kept upon their toes. In the case of The Last of Us, for example, you know the whole gist of the story because it's realistic and because you've seen the story like it before. Death Stranding, however, is something entirely unique, set in the dystopian world where after death you turn into human-hunting ghost, where a baby-carrying Amazon delivery guy is played by Norman Reedus, while a psychopathic dead war veteran is looking for his own baby. It's eerie, unique experience, full of character that sticks with you, moments that define an outworldly experience. Whether it be Hartman, the man who stops his own heart just so he can find his family on the beach, or Mama, trying to hold on to her dead child as a dust ghost. Each and every character in this world feels like they're part of it, yet there's something that has emerged from the mind of the creative genius. It's the same with this game's gameplay too. Peeing on the floor creates fungus that spouts and eatable worms that heal you. Ladders can be used in a million different creative ways, helping out other players struggling in the wilds like you were at the beginning. It all works to create a world that feels lived in, that feels alive, that feels like it's not just a piece of coding that looks and feels gorgeous.
Be focused now. The mistake.
So Kojima made a video game that is not just a beautiful piece of art, but rather a soliloquy of innovative, creative and unique ideas that just blend together perfectly. They recently released the director's cut. The director's cut of Death Stranding showcased even more ways that you could increase players' immersion, raising more ways to maneuver throughout the plains, more stories to be told, more places to explore. It's never-ending cycle of innovation that started out when the game first released. And because it's so wacky in both the gameplay and the story, you could add virtually anything and it would fit. The future of specifically Death Stranding 2 in my mind would be something extraordinary. I can explain it, but I divide my explanation into two subcategories: gameplay and story. What is the one thing that is in common among every single Kojima game? It is the iconic slow motion scene of characters putting on sunglasses. While there is a lens flare, it's extremely long cutscenes that just never seem to end, but you're so invested you can't help but to forget this was a game and not a film? Or is it just the fact that they always have a story that you can never forget? Hell, Metal Gear Solid 1 to 5 had so many twists and turns that if you tell it to someone who hasn't heard of it, he'd think that it was just a Bollywood film. Though, if you're a fan of the series and have played it, you'd know how memorable everything is. Same is the case with the Death Stranding. Each character is so real, each moment is so visceral, everything is so memorable that it gets stuck in your brain. That is something we'll 100% find in Death Stranding 2, if we ever get a sequel. In all honesty, if there is a sequel, I want it to be about things beyond Sam, things beyond the beach, something that questions the entirety of their realm of existence. A story that focuses not just on the past and the present, but on the future of what the world could reach. I want characters just as memorable as Deadman, Hardman, Die Hardman, Mama, Fragile, Sam, hell even BB. I want a world just as gorgeous as it was in the original. I want a soundtrack that throws shivers down my spine. Like the first time you hear Bones by Low Roar playing in the background when you take Bridget Strand's body to be cremated. I know for sure that it won't be as simple as that though. It's never as simple with Kojima ever. There's probably much more he will deliver than we can ever anticipate with the story. The gameplay, however, is much easier to define. Things that I wanted to have, things that I wanted to be removed or added. First off, I'd really appreciate if the gameplay in Death Stranding 2 did not revolve entirely around delivering packages. It should rather have more characters for us to interact with, unlike in the original game, where most people just show themselves as holograms. I want more real people in the open world, people you can interact with, people who you can run into during the cutscene exploring, and more characters to mess around with. I want there to be more options for vehicles too. As much as I love driving around on Norman Reedus' ride bike, I need more variety in my options of exploring, especially when I'm leveled up. That's something that should definitely be an option in Death Stranding. Hell, let's go with helicopters and planes, why not go an extra mile? I would also appreciate more focus to the combat itself. I prefer to be kept into non-lethal weaponry like the bola guns and things like that, but enemies should be harder to take down, or players should definitely have more options in terms of the stealth. Give me an option to prone when I'm not carrying too much. Give me an option to stealthily take out guards in a freer way. Having gunfights to be more prominent should also be a feature. This particular one is just for a more maneuverability around the map for those people that don't choose to use the exoskeletons. Now I also need to have more options with the climbing. I want to be able to grab onto ledges, or options to skimming along the sides of the sharp edges. Well, speaking about this, I'd also appreciate an exoskeleton like that can enhance your combat abilities, like for example helping you kick enemies really far. The part I just mentioned because it would really look cool. There should also definitely be more variety in the mission structure. For the most part, Death Stranding had the point A to B, and then from point C back to point A structure in the deliveries. I want there to be more complications, more dynamic events that stop you from doing everything according to the plan. I like the BTs showing up randomly, but I need there to be more than just BTs. In the dystopian apocalyptic world, there needs to be human survivors that should be hunting for scraps much harder than the ones in the Death Stranding do currently, such as the mules. Or in the one that last improvement, I'd like car chases.
I'll stay with you by your side, close your tie.
You know, in conclusion, that is just a tiny list of things that I would like to see and perhaps improved in Death Stranding 2, because I truly believe that the original game is almost freaking perfect in every way. It's one of the best games I've ever played. Whether it's to be in terms of the storytelling, immersion, or just fun gameplay, despite its being feeling tedious to a lot of other people. Personally for me, I absolutely adore it. Well, I wish to mention one last thing, that I actually got a Patreon, and if you wish to support me, please do consider. Also check out the rest of my special videos in a separate playlist. I will leave all the links down below in the description, and at that, thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave a like and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.